And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, we've been doing this show, this version of this show from noon to 3. This is our 7th or maybe 8th year. I don't remember. But we've covered so many different crime blotter stories, so many different kinds of crime that you don't usually see a new one. Well, we've got a new one today. Someone in Irvine stole $1,700 worth of caviar.
Was it Katie Porter?
Every time I do a story and I even mention Irvine, the first thing you go to is...
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the Assemblyman representing California's 3rd District, which is Northern California, in the state legislature. You can follow him on X at J_Gallagher AD3, Assemblyman James Gallagher. Welcome.
Hey, John. Good to be back with you again.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. So let's first start out talking about the death of Congressman Doug LaMalfa, whose district overlapped much of yours in Northern California. I know he was a guy that you were very close to, was a mentor of sorts of yours. You used to work for him, was not a guy who was a regular on the cable news circuit. So the people in his district knew who he was and they knew what he was up to. But outside of the district, he wasn't as well known as some of the others statewide. Could you talk to us a little bit about him?
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, he was a giant. He was a big man, but he had a real big heart too. Really was focused on his district and their needs. He was well known for traveling the entire district, going to every chicken dinner, backyard barbecue, community event, parade, usually in his Ford Torino or other classic car. He loved classic cars. He was a Ford man for sure. And, he really valued connecting with his constituents and making sure that they were represented and that he was their voice. And, he did it really well. He was very beloved by his North State community.
All right. Well, rest in peace, Congressman Doug LaMalfa. Today was the State of the State address in Sacramento. Governor Gavin Newsom delivered a speech before both houses of the state legislature. This is something that he has not been fond of doing in years past, where I guess he did it at Dodger Stadium one time, and other years just really not much of anything at all. Certainly he would probably blame some of that on COVID, but as a dyslexic person who's not good at reading a teleprompter, I suspect that he doesn't like giving those speeches for any number of reasons. But today he did it. And it seemed to me like this was his audition for running for president, where he is trying to put the narrative out there that he has been extremely successful as governor of California, that he is fixing all of our problems, and anyone who says otherwise is a liar.
Yeah, it was typical Newsom. And this speech was, I would say, on another level of just, refusing to admit all of the failures, of this state, and in fact, doubling down and saying how successful we are. And in fact, one of the lines was, this is intentional by design. And that's the problem. It's a defective product. Like, let's get that. It's design defect. Let's recall that. But he bragged about how we're, number one in so many different categories. Of course, he left out unemployment, poverty, and homelessness. Bragged about how he's going to spend even more money on education, an education system that, by the way, is still ranked near last in the nation. Continued to lambast President Trump, of course, and how everything is President Trump's fault, with no humility to look in the mirror at his own policies that have devastated the people of California. That was classic Gavin Newsom. But I think that Californians have really had enough of it.
One of the claims that he made in the speech, and this is something that not only has he done prior to today's speech, but his social media team certainly is willing to make the claim and go after people who question their claims on the subject of the bullet train. He claimed that the bullet train is a smashing success. And people who say that the bullet train is not a smashing success are spreading misinformation. And I don't understand why he's going in this direction, because I can understand if you just ignore it, if it's just one of these sore subjects that you don't talk about because there's no good news to talk about. No one can buy a ticket on the bullet train or ride the bullet train because it doesn't exist. I guess he's funneling money to unions and he's funneling money to people whose property he's buying, those sorts of things. Maybe people who sit on that commission or attorneys, they're doing okay. But the public at large cannot use a product that is supposed to be fully completed by now. That is a failure of epic proportions, maybe even worse than the big dig in Massachusetts that made so many headlines for so many years. But instead of running away from it, he's leaning into it, and he is saying that this is part of his wonderful legacy.
Yeah, I mean, to borrow a Newsom phrase, you're as dumb as you want to be, right? And he continues to be as dumb as he wants to be on this issue. I mean, 8 years ago in his first State of the State, I remember when he said, hey, it's time to put the brakes on high-speed rail, because even back then we had all of these reports and problems of cost overruns. Now, 8 years later, he's saying we need to fast-track this thing. Even more has come out of the billions wasted, the audits that have consistently found that this is not feasible, not cost-effective, the federal money being taken away as a result. He continues to push this senseless project, and we certainly need infrastructure in this state, but that's not. He also says, he continues to say that the Central Valley, he's doing the Central Valley a favor. The people of the Central Valley need this amazing infrastructure. It's vital to their jobs. The Central Valley doesn't want this project. They clearly have, voiced their opposition in many cases that they hate this project. They think it doesn't do anything. It's a train to nowhere. And yet he persists in trying to bestow it upon them, as if he's some sort of, king, right? But at any rate, I mean, it's the same old Newsom mantra, failed policies he's doubling down on. And, again, I mean, it's not going to make California any better. In fact, it's making us even worse.
The other claim that I thought was odd was he was patting himself on the back for a drop in crime in California. And I think there are really two things at play when it comes to crime statistics looking like it's moving in a positive direction. One is we fought Gavin Newsom tooth and nail on Prop 36, and we passed Prop 36. Right. He was the one that appointed George Gascon to be the district attorney originally in San Francisco, and then endorsed him against an incumbent Democrat, Jackie Lacey, when he moved to Los Angeles and ran there. We kicked him out of office. We kicked out the DA in San Francisco. We kicked out the DA in Alameda. We kicked out the mayor of Oakland. We kicked out the mayor of San Francisco. And because of that, there was some progress, at least institutionally. But he fought that tooth and nail. He didn't support the recall of Sheng Tao. He didn't support the recall of Pamela Price. He wasn't engaged in any of that. He was one of the leading voices against Prop 36 and was AWOL when George Gascon ran the last time, although the first time he ran, Gavin Newsom enthusiastically supported him. So we have progress, I guess, in that aspect of crime going on right now in the state, but it wasn't because of Gavin Newsom. It was in spite of him. And the other issue, and you just have to watch the local news in the Bay Area or in San Diego, Los Angeles, wherever, to pick up on trends that when shopkeepers get hit, and we're seeing a lot of people who have jewelry shops getting hit in Southern California, Northern California, 7-Eleven, the corporate headquarters said that they're not even going to operate anymore in Oakland because they're so violent and they get robbed so often. What they're doing is they're just not even reporting the crimes anymore, because in places like Oakland, they're just told to fill out a form online. And they're also not even filing claims with their insurance companies because they don't want to get dropped from their policies. So just because they're not showing up in any statistic that can be printed in the newspaper doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's just that people are learning how to deal with it without involving the government or their insurance companies at all.
Right. I mean, his stats are always dubious. They're, manufactured and, distorted to try and make him look like he's doing. He was bragging about that he had a 9% decrease in unsheltered homeless today, which I don't think is actually true. But even if it is, why would you celebrate a 9% decrease when you're number one in homeless in the entire nation? And when we know you've spent over $30 billion on homelessness only to make the problem worse. This is again Gavin just trying to gaslight, move the ball, issue some kind of shiny object. I also thought it was really it was telling that he would not mention Prop 36 at all. He didn't mention it at all in the speech, while he was citing those stats. And it's just again his refusal to admit that his policies have been terrible and have not worked. And it's actually the policies that, as you said, that were passed over his objections, that have actually led to, some gains on the crime issue. It hasn't been because of Gavin Newsom or his policies, that's for sure.
Republicans have long been critical of Gavin Newsom. You were the Republican leader of the Assembly. You were very vocal about all of his failures. Certainly that's to be expected in a partisan sort of environment. But right now, Gavin Newsom is receiving a lot of criticism from people within his own party. We've recently seen Bay Area Congressman Ro Khanna come after him. Ro Khanna said that the state of California needs an audit in the wake of what we learned about all of the massive fraud going on in the state of Minnesota. And he wants an audit here in California. And he mentioned the bullet train as one of the projects that certainly is in desperate need of an audit. Newsom's people were not happy about that. They started snapping back at him on social media. The mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan, has been extremely critical of Gavin Newsom on any number of fronts, including Proposition 36, where Matt Mahan was arguably the biggest bold-faced name in the Democratic Party that was campaigning on behalf of Prop 36. Gavin Newsom was not happy about that, and he's been sniping back at him. And now there's some daylight between Gavin Newsom and the SEIU, where the SEIU has a ballot initiative that they want to put on the ballot coming up that would tax billionaires into oblivion, that's causing many of them to move out of state. And that's putting Gavin Newsom in a very precarious situation because he understands that if a handful of people move out of the state, it's going to blow the budget. And some of them, as I mentioned, already have. And he doesn't want to run for president on the platform of being the governor of the state that just jacked taxes up into the stratosphere when they're already somewhere near that to begin with. And he is opposing this initiative. So far, they have said that they're moving forward with it against his objections, but they haven't gone into open warfare with him. This is new for Newsom, where Democrats are openly sparring with him on these subjects. He's used to sparring with Republicans. Now he's being hit by friendly fire. What do you make of all of that?
It's a good thing. I talked about this today as well. As I think there's starting to emerge a third way politics in California. Still remains to see if that will, really come to fruition and solve problems. But I think it's diverging from the Gavin Newsom way of doing things, the Gavin Newsom Democratic Party. And you have leaders like Matt Mahan, in San Jose, who are saying, you know what, man, these policies don't work. We have to do something different. He's admitting it, and he's finding new ways to, for instance, in his city, tackle homelessness. And he's actually had some pretty good success with it. Gavin doesn't like that because it makes him look bad, right? And so he attacks people who are going in a different direction. But I think Gavin represents the politics of the past. He all he wants to do is fight and use the political platform to promote himself. And people want to see people who are actually solving problems, are trying to cut people's cost of living, for example. solve the homelessness issue, really, and have real accountability. Ensure there's not fraud and waste in government. Now, Ro Khanna, he started off by saying he wants this big wealth tax, which would be terrible. And then when he got some criticism, he goes, well, hey, wait, guys, I'll make sure that we audit and we reduce fraud. Hey, no, it's backwards, buddy. That's backwards. We start with, let's eliminate the fraud, waste, and abuse. And then we'll have plenty of money, actually, to invest in the things that we certainly need in this state. And we won't need to have another tax. But, yeah, that has been a good development that they're starting to question and challenge Newsom. And that's something we have not seen, in quite some time within the Democratic Party.
As someone who's seen the California budgets up close and personal for over a decade now, do you think if there was a legit audit of how we're spending our money, particularly when you're dealing with things like organizations that are supposed to reduce homelessness, fire aid in Los Angeles, certainly fire aid going on in different parts of the state that have been impacted by fires, do you think that you would find more waste, fraud, and abuse here than what we've seen in Minnesota?
Absolutely, 100%. I think everybody really knows that. I think Democrats, being honest, know that that's the case. We've already seen it, right? We know about the cell phones, for example, that were bought, that just stayed in a room and were never used. We know about the 911 system that has a huge cost overrun and has not accomplished updating our emergency system, in this state. We know about the, billions wasted in the EDD system. Certainly we've heard about the fraud perpetrated by people getting homeless money and using it to enrich themselves. If we did a full-scale audit, there's billions and billions of dollars that I think would be uncovered, and we could save the money and then put it towards things like, at better education policy or infrastructure that we need, like Sites Reservoir, a new water storage facility. I think would be a much better investment than high-speed rail. These are all things that I think would much better, make our budget more stable and, fiscally strong going into the future. But Democrats don't want to, seem to not want to cast too much of a light on that, maybe because it's their favored nonprofits and groups that are taking advantage of this money.
Assemblyman James Gallagher, representing California's 3rd District. You can follow him on X at J_GallagherAD3. Assemblyman Gallagher, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Patty in Simi Valley. Patty, hello.
Good afternoon, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, John, I want to talk a little bit about the homeless thing. This is all Democrats' fault. Houses are unaffordable. They really are, John. They're unaffordable. The taxes on houses is $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 a year. No one can afford to pay it. We are being taxed to death by stupid liberal policies. They don't work. They are terrible. The Democrat policies are so terrible, people just end up being homeless. That's all I want to say.
All right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
We miss Patty. It's been a while.
I don't think we've had a call from him in 8 months?
Well, we're glad to have him back. And now that just makes me miss Ireland even more. You ever have too good of a vacation where now you're just ruined for real life?
It's like sitting in first class. Once you sit in first class, you can't go back to coach.
Yep.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, coming up next week, we're going to, your home, the San Fernando Valley.
It's going to be such a great day because I don't have to drive to Culver City. I get to stay in the valley. We're going to be at the Pineapple Hill in Sherman Oaks once again next Friday, January 16th from noon to 3. Save the date. It's a live broadcast of the John Phillips Show. If you've been to our live shows before, you know how much fun they are, so you'll definitely be there. If you haven't been, this is the perfect first one to go to because there's plenty of parking and plenty of room for you. We're going to be there from noon to 3. Great food, great drinks on that beautiful outdoor patio. I looked at the weather. It's going to be lovely in the valley next Friday. But we're also there for a very important reason, not just a party with Jimmy Buffett Friday. Susan Shelley's going to join us from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. As the courts have made it easier to raise your taxes, we need you to come by and sign the petition to save Prop 13, which you can do, by the way. You could do that right now. Work ahead of time. Be the good kid in class by going to saveprop13.com, and all the instructions are there. You can even bring that petition with you. We'll tell you more about your taxpayer rights and protecting Prop 13. So next Friday, noon to 3, we'll be in Sherman Oaks. If you're in the Bay, use your points. Get one of those cheap flights from San Francisco to Burbank or Oakland to Burbank. Just be real careful about being in Oakland. And we'll see you there, but don't you worry. We are working our tails off to make sure we do a remote in the Bay Area soon. But we'll see you next Friday from noon to 3 in Sherman Oaks.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Glenn Hughes and Gilby Clark to the Canyon in Agora Hills on March 28th. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing.
As we told you earlier in the show, Karen Bass will have a challenger on the ballot when she seeks re-election for another 4-year term as mayor of Los Angeles. Spencer Pratt of reality TV fame, who is one of the victims of the fire in Pacific Palisades, has been very vocal on social media, very vocal speaking out about the failures of the city of Los Angeles and state of California and how they failed all of the fire victims. Announced at the rally yesterday in Pacific Palisades that he would be throwing his hat in the ring and running for mayor of Los Angeles against Karen Bass.
Isn't it funny that this is being treated as the first serious contender because nobody's paying attention to Austin Butner?
Well, come on. That guy ran before. He didn't go anywhere. He's running again. You fall asleep during all of his interviews. He's not willing to openly criticize Karen Bass. He's willing to be passive-aggressive, and that's it. And if you're going to win this thing, if you're going to beat an incumbent, you have to make a strong case that they're a failure and need to be replaced.
For more on Spencer Pratt running for mayor of Los Angeles, here is CBS LA.
Now, the Palisades fire could become the single biggest issue in the LA mayor's race this year.
As it should be. There's also other major issues like the homeless and the police and the budget and everything else, but the fires are Karen Bass's most glaring failure. And the fact that even after the fires, something as simple as she promised to waive the permit fees and that still hasn't gotten done is an indictment of her and the entire city council minus Tracy Park.
The fires prove that she is an incompetent leader. And if you are an incompetent leader, that means the next time there's a natural disaster, the next time there's a major problem in Los Angeles, you are likely to fail at that too.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Many have questioned Mayor Bass's leadership during the fire response and the recovery, and one vocal critic announced today that he's going to run against her. CBS LA political reporter Tom Wade is here now with more on that story.
Yeah, we are seeing the field grow. There's more contenders there. So you might know his name. It's Spencer Pratt, and he was a star on the MTV reality series The Hills. That was 15 years ago. His house burned in the Palisades fire, and just days after the inferno, he started sharing his ordeal on TikTok. He gained 1 million followers in a week. Many of his posts blame the city and state officials for failing fire victims.
As they should.
Yes, because they did fail the residents of Pacific Palisades.
And many of his followers believe he's right. On the night LA marks 1 year since the horrific Palisades inferno, the fallout from what happened continues to shape the city's mayoral race. Wednesday, former reality star Spencer Pratt announced he is running to unseat LA's current mayor, Karen Bass.
Business as usual is a death sentence for Los Angeles, and I'm done waiting for someone to take real action. That's why I am running for mayor.
Pratt announced his run in the Palisades, where he and his wife, also a former reality star, Heidi Montag, lost their home in the Palisades fire.
They lost everything they had, and his parents' home burned down as well, the home he was born and raised in.
That seems to be a common theme in the Palisades, where people who were raised there decided to come back and live there, and the whole family was there. So you want to talk about a devastating fire. If you can't go stay with your parents when you need a place to stay temporarily because their home burned down too, you're really in a pickle.
Pratt's parents' home was also destroyed. With 2 million followers on TikTok and 1 million more on Instagram, Pratt has been a vocal critic of Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom, blaming them for the fire.
We are standing here amongst the ashes of our once beautiful town because the state and local leaders let us burn.
You know, if the Palisades ever actually does get rebuilt, the locals should incorporate immediately. Get out of the city of L.A.
Well, they've tried that before. They tried it in the San Fernando Valley. They tried it in San Pedro. They tried it in Hollywood, and none of it's been successful. But in Pacific Palisades, you want to talk about motivation to split apart from the city of L.A. No one has it more than them, with the caveat being the people who will end up living there after the Palisades gets rebuilt will probably be different than the people who were there when the fires hit.
Pratt has never run for office, and critics say he has built a following pushing unproven claims.
Like what?
Yeah. Go ahead. Give me something concrete.
You mean like when the firefighters are texting him, giving him whistleblower complaints about all the nonsense that went on with the state parks employees saying, hey, those are special trees. You can't bulldoze those.
All of that turned out to be true.
Pratt has never run for office, and critics say he has built a following pushing unproven claims about the fire.
Why do you think $100 million in fire aid money is missing?
He echoed that false claim in a recent social media post. The fire aid money.
Whoa.
That's a little weird.
False claim? So if you're going to run with that, who is this, Tom Waite?
This is Tom Waite, the political director for CBS LA, who, by the way, was the person who did the story we did yesterday on the fire aid investigation.
Okay, if you're going to make that claim, then you have to run with the claim or run with the storyline that it was all a scam from the very beginning. Because if it was all a scam from the very beginning and the money went to all of these organizations and not the fire victims, then okay, that's one thing. But you need to explain what you mean there. But when they had that benefit, they put fire victims on to motivate people to write checks. People wrote checks because the stories from the fire victims pulled at their heartstrings. But when the people who were featured in the telecast went to fire aid looking for help, they were told to pound sand. That's not a rumor. That's not something I just made up. That's coming directly from them. We had a fire victim on today's program and yesterday's program who said that when she would call fire aid looking for money or looking for resources, they won't even return her phone calls. And she said that her neighbors experienced the same thing.
He echoed that false claim in a recent social media post. The fire aid money is accounted for.
Accounted for in that it was always supposed to go to the nonprofits because that's what fire aid is saying, but that is very, very, very misleading. And it's weird for Tom Waite to be doing that fact check when he's the one that did the story that showed both sides of the investigation into fire aid yesterday.
You know what I think is happening here? I think the mayor's leaning on him. Because yesterday, when you heard his report, you walked away with a very clear picture as to what happened to that money, and none of it is good. He was the one that told us that it went to the podcasts, and it went to voter registration, and it went to social justice groups, and all of these entities that have nothing to do with anything. And then the next day he turns around and says that the spirit of his report the day before is fake news?
Someone got to him?
Oh, 100%. And here's what happens. In a one-party state, in a one-party city, if your job is to report on the government, if the government calls you up and says, listen, we didn't like what you put out there yesterday, that makes us look bad. So either you're going to change your tune or we're going to stop giving you access. I wonder if something like that happened, because for him to do a 180 like that from one day to the next makes no sense otherwise.
Pratt adds his name to a growing list of challengers for Mayor Bass, including former LA School Superintendent Austin Butner.
Nobody's paying attention to him.
Nope.
Who also accuses Bass of botching the response to the Palisades fire.
The mayor says she didn't know about the fire warnings, despite them being sent to her office.
Community organizer, pastor, and Democratic Socialist Ray Huang.
No relation.
Never run into this person at the family reunions?
Community organizer, pastor, and Democratic Socialist Ray Huang is...
It's spelled differently from my real last name and my fake last name.
is also in the race.
The city is unaffordable and our leaders are unaccountable. We've been promised solutions on housing, transit, and affordability.
Oh, yeah, she wants free buses.
Oh, great.
We tried that in COVID. What happened, John?
Roving homeless shelters.
But every year, it's the same excuses, the same gridlock.
Longtime LA leader Zev Yaroslavsky says whether Bass wins or loses may hinge on how voters grade her on the fire recovery.
Who's grading her an A?
I would really like to know. Someone on her payroll, I assume.
The fire is a bellwether for what people think about the city in general, and I think that's the battle she has, and she has to show that she's performed. And of course, the immigration issue is not inconsequential.
There are still some big wild cards. Billionaire businessman Rick Caruso has not announced his intentions, and LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath is also hinting at a possible run.
Who's asking for that?
Nobody.
There are a lot of people.
If she were to run, she would get crushed because she is a lefty Democratic partisan the same way that Karen Bass is. Well, if you're a lefty Democratic partisan, why wouldn't you go with the incumbent?
There are a lot of people who are asking me about running for mayor, and
Nobody. Maybe consultants.
Yeah, give us some names.
Who's went to Lindsay Horvath, saw her performance as supervisor over the last 4 years and says, please, please, please bring that to the city of LA.
there are a lot of people who are asking me about running for mayor, and I think it's because they see that we are setting up in the county a different structure of accountability.
The county's also a nightmare. We haven't even gotten to all of the facts that, I don't know, the warning system didn't even warn some of the people in Altadena that their homes were about to burn down.
And the county, unlike the city of LA has been a basket case for a long time. The county of LA used to be incredibly well run. Back when you had Gloria Molina and Zev and Yvonne Burke and Don Kanabe and Mike Antonovich on the Board of Supervisors, the government in LA County worked like as close to a Swiss clock as possible. And now look what it is.
Pratt is also suing the city over the fire, claiming an empty reservoir, low water pressure, and broken hydrants helped the fire spread.
Accurate.
Yep.
17 people are running in the primary so far. It'll be held back on June 2nd. Pat, back to you.
All right. Thanks for that, Tom.
So there's the latest on Spencer Pratt running for mayor with that bizarre little detour where Tom Waite decides to fact check Spencer Pratt on something that was in his own reporting yesterday.
That is really, really, really strange. Really strange. Typically what happens is you can see these things coming a mile away. There are certain, if this was Spectrum News, you would anticipate that. Because Spectrum and public radio, they're probably the most left-wing news organizations in Southern California, maybe the LA Times too. They're all kind of in bed with one another. So you would expect that from them. Television news tends to play it straighter than the entities that I just described, including CBS. And he had, same guy, an excellent report the day before that was factual and true. And then the next day he comes out and contradicts himself and does it in a way that, I don't know. I didn't see that one coming. Did you?
It was very, very, very strange, but people are noticing it and paying attention to it. I think that clip has been reposted to our social medias about 50 times this afternoon.
I would really like to know if someone got to him.
Usually Tom Waite plays it very straight, very down the middle like a local reporter would. That's the first time I've ever heard him really with his thumb on the scale. And like you said, it's so bizarre because he's the one that did that 7-minute piece on fire aid 1 day prior.
Yeah. Again, if it was someone who was known for that, that's one thing. But this guy has a good reputation in town. I don't get it. Maybe we'll learn more about what happened there. Let's keep an eye on other shops in town and see if other shops start to do this too. Because didn't the mayor just do a sit down with CBS?
She did, as far as I have seen, she did sit-downs relating to the fires, and I think she recorded them all on the same day. She did one on Channel 4 and one on Channel 2. She did the one that we played you earlier with Josh Haskell of Channel 7. As far as I have seen, she has not done any sit-downs with Channel 5 or Fox 11 yet.
We know that she did a sit-down with a podcast with Matt Welch, and she admitted on the podcast at the end when she thought that they were done that they royally screwed up with the fires. And they posted it online. And then her office called them and told them to take it down, and they did. But someone was able to get a copy of it, and that's how we knew that it happened. So we know that her office leans on shops in town and tells them what they want and what they don't want. And I guess some people say yes and some people say no. And we know that happened with the podcast. I really seriously wonder if that happened with CBS.
It's a good question.
It's 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Let's go to George in Northridge. George, hello.
Yeah, John, two things I need to say. And the first one is, I'm just sick and tired of politics and politicians. The way I see it, there's two things the politician needs to be successful, and that is just lack of conscience and morals. And after that, a gut to just say what you need to say. Because without politics, these guys would probably be at the welfare lines. The second thing I need to say is, obviously, Karen is running again. Do you think Gavin, Barack, Kamala, and Joe will be here to campaign for her?
My guess is yes, because don't forget, she came very, very, very close to being Joe's vice president. It was Kamala Harris who beat her out for that role after leaking all of those negative stories about her and her involvement in Cuban politics, supporting Fidel Castro, and all of those things that knocked her out of contention. But she could have just as easily become the vice president under Joe Biden as Kamala Harris. Now, since then, they have made up. I guess there were hurt feelings after Kamala got the job and Karen didn't. But she seems to be in good standing with all of those people. And don't forget, when she was away in Ghana, when the fires hit, she was there at the request of Joe Biden. That was a plum that Joe Biden gave her because he held her in such high regard. So my guess is they'll all be there if she wants them campaigning on her behalf. Thank you for the call, sir. We have one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. Don't you go anywhere.